What's this game called?
Palworld.
Pokepal? Palworld.
Yeah, it's called Palworld, Grandpa. Pokemon was your generation.
I'm gonna kill.
I'm not gonna lie, when I originally got this game, I expected it to be just 2 hours of me shooting these things and then making a joke video about it. Instead, I got like 50 or 60 hours of gameplay out of $30, and ended up scratching an itch I didn't even realize I've had for 20-some years. Palworld is a game, and I know you've already heard about it, so I'm just gonna cut to the chase. Some of these designs suck. Like, this is just a boar, that's just a pink cat, this is literally just a chicken that I feel like they ripped straight out of Billy Hatcher. If you showed this to me without any context, I would 100% say this is some kind of Sega rip or something from like a Lego game I've never played before. But despite this, they did a great job of making the world feel so alive to me. I'll fly over these herds of pals roaming about and grazing. You run into pals that are predatory, attacking smaller, weaker pals all the time. You'll even come across some situations where there's a kind of territory dispute going on between two pals. And after you've defeated something, pals will show up and scavenge the remains and you'll see them eat. You'll also see them eat the things that they've killed in the predatory exchanges. Combine this with the fact that every pal has a different temperament towards you. Some of them will always run away from you, some of them will attack on sight, and others are kind of coin flips on whether or not they're going to ruin your day or not. It doesn't feel like you're playing a game, it feels like you're actually entering an environment where these creatures could exist and actually have places on the food chain. It's also kind of annoying because some situations you'll be whiffing sphere after sphere trying to catch these things while they're running away. Other situations you're running through the forest on this mythical creature and it makes sense that these little weaklings are running away from you. Either way, whether I find myself loving or hating it, I enjoy it because at the end of the day it adds character to the game. And speaking of character, there's a surprising amount of ways that you can actually play this game and build your team for it being early access. You just want to shoot stuff? Go for it. You want to make a one-man army? Go for it. You want to make an actual team with coverage like a dork? Go for it. Because each pal has different niches and situations that they fit into. Like, Nox gives you more damage for your dark types, Kelpsy Ignis gives you more damage for your fire types. If you just want to catch all, you could just throw Gobfin into your team, who gives you more damage just for being there. Oh, and while we're on the subject of attacking, every pal can learn almost every move in the game through these fruit that you find on these trees that give you abilities. You can also buy them in places. So if you get attached to a certain pal, or if you get lucky and find a shiny pal early on, you could realistically turn that thing into a monster through condensing it and teaching it every move in the game almost. The only real exception to this rule about them learning everything is probably the signature moves, which are also special abilities that you can on command tell a pal to do. Like Incineram has this thing called, I think, like the Hellfire Claw, where he uppercuts you and then slams you back down and does a ton of damage. Only Incineram can learn that. Kind of like how Incineroar is the only Pokemon that can learn Darkest Lariat. And if you are looking for a one-man army setup, you could go with Sweepa or Elizabeth. And just look at Sweepa. This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. It's such a dumb design. They took Sweep and they were like, BAM! Sweepa. I hate it. I hate Sweepa. I love Sweepa because it gets stronger the more Swees you have in your party. So you just roll up with this dude, 5 deep in the squad, and you turn it into a complete monster with enough condensing and move fruits so that it has enough type coverage for everything. I'm not even kidding, this thing solos almost every boss fully condensed. Finally, type advantages. Check out this chart. It's great, it's dumbed down, it's simplified, there's not a lot of fluff on it. Do you know what's not on it? Do you know what you don't see? Bugs. Do you know what suck? Bugs. And I'm not saying suck as in they're bad, I love Warsect. In fact, I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna say this. In any monster catching game, I guarantee you that the coolest designs will be bugs. But because of a dumb precedent set some 20 years ago, they don't hit well, they don't have good defenses, and they job to just about everything under the sun. Palworld said, screw it, they're just grass type now. And gain all the benefits that come with that domain of being grass types. On top of getting rid of the fluff, they also fixed the fact that you don't have 4 times weakness or 4 times resistance to anything. So everything on your team is going to have a 1-to-1 ratio of what it's good against and what it's bad against. Which is especially good for me because my favorite type is water, and then my secondary types that I like are rock, electric, and fire. Which means that I hate earthquake. Speaking of which, there's only one pal that learns an earthquake-like move, and it's Memorist. Do you know how happy I am to not lose to Earthquake in this game? Do you know how happy I am to know that not everybody can learn Earthquake? Do you know how happy I am to play a game without land? Moving around the world can give you just as many options as well. While I will say that having a fast flyer is super convenient, it's also super fun to try out the gliders and also just have a cool mount on the ground that you've put a lot of effort into. I remember back when I played Diamond and Pearl as a kid, I used a Drifloon as my go-to flyer, and I always wondered whether I was on top of him, whether I was being held by him, or whether I was holding on to him while I was flying. And now I have Hangyu, and I get to slide all over the place and use him to glide off of my momentum. And like I said before, having a flying mount is more convenient, but I will say this, just slowing down and grabbing a ground mount of some kind and just exploring will reap a lot of benefits as well. There's tons of chests everywhere, and there's a lot of situations I've happened across just by goofing around on the ground and getting lost on a mount that isn't even that fast. And going back to what we were talking about with combat earlier, there's nothing stopping you from just setting up your character and your mount to just revolve around hit and run tactics and getting away as quick as possible. The only honest-to-God thing that I don't like about Palworld, aside from all the jank, aside from all the building issues, you know, it's early access, I can't really fault them on that, and they're being good with the updates. It's gotta be the fact that it's a survival crafting game. I think survival crafting games are memes, I think they always have been. I honest to God think that every survival craft game past like 2017, and that's pushing it, has just been trying to copy the success of other games. But lo and behold, they helped make that fun too, because every game that you start has sliders that you can change the world settings for. Think you're getting too many resources? Think you're getting too little resources? There's a slider for that. Think you're doing too much damage? Think you're doing too little damage? There's a slider for that. Think that 72 hours to pop an egg is too much? Want it to be instant because you ain't got time for that? Adjust it, just take the slider and change it. You can ultimately take this game from you playing as a 10-year-old fighting electric badgers and these freakish monsters, to turning it into the jankest Dark Souls game you've ever played. You can customize how easy it is, you can customize how hard it is, you can customize how much survival you do. It's up to you. Play it however you want. There's multiplayer, there's single player. Play with a friend, play by yourself, and just go at your own pace. You are literally the person in charge of how you play this game, and how fun you make it for yourself. Overall, I gotta say that Palworld far blew my expectations out of the water. In fact, I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that. I think it's going to be a mainstay title from here on out, and if they update it, here's hoping that they do, it will get bigger and it'll be more fun, and I'll probably put another 100 or so hours into it. I don't think it's gonna be a Pokemon killer. Mainly because I think that there's more than enough room in the genre for more than one or two things. I can have Pokemon for my Swampert, for my Incineroar, and for my Clodsire. I can have Palworld for Incineram, for Hangyu, and for Mamorist. And finally, I can have Digimon for Edamon, because he's the king. Why else would you... Why else wouldn't you like Digimon? Who cares about the fan service? I just want to watch a monkey beat up a volcano in a rap battle, dude.